Nice. It's not something like a TV show or anything like that where I
Yeah.
have to introduce you, but man, it's really really good to finally talk to you. I've been a fan for a long time, and it's kind of crazy because I don't know, here in Brazil, I didn't know a lot of people that actually knew your work, and for a long time it was something like a hidden secret that only I had, you know.
Yeah.
And I came to people when I told them, man, I've been listening to this guy, and he's like crazy good, but no one else here knows about him, and I don't want to talk about him because I don't want him to get like I it's not like I didn't want you to get famous
Yeah.
or anything like that, but it was so good to be like the only person who knew this big secret, like, man, this guy is amazing. And I don't know if you ever felt that about anyone or any artist or something like that, but all of a sudden last year I released a book called 24 Hours of Love, and Ocean is the first song on the playlist of the book. And suddenly there were like a lot of people who came to me and said, man, I love this guy Native, and then Michael Benjamin. Wow, he's so good in these songs. And I was like, my first instinct was, dude, please don't listen to him. He's like my secret artist here in Brazil.
That's funny.
But I don't know, how does that make you feel, man?
That's funny. It sounds lovely though. It's a yeah, it's always interesting because for me, of course, I kind of live that life as a musician and traveling, and I don't. So it's always nice to hear these stories of like songs that have a life on their own, or like or part of someone's life. I like that. Yeah.
That's cool, man. Um, I have a bunch of questions here lined up for you, but I have one here that I don't know, I just thought that I could ask you, and this is not the main thing about the interview. It's just one question, but you know, ocean is really a big deal, and I think I don't know for sure that if this is your like most successful song on when it comes to numbers on Spotify or something like that. But I was curious, man, how did that song come to be, you know? Like how does uh, what's the story behind Ocean? And I don't know if it's something too personal for you because it feels like a very personal song, but I would love to understand a little bit about how that song, which I really love, came to be.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. It's always, I think it's always a lot of things that are coming together in a song for me. Like it's rarely just one story that kind of unfolds in a song, but it's like different things that happen. And I remember I was with a friend back in LA, I think the day before I had my flight back to Europe, and we were walking along the beach, and we were just talking about loss and grief and all these things, and I just said these words like, oh, I'd rather see the ocean once in a lifetime and then miss it for the rest of my life. And it kind of resonated with me and with him as well, with her as well. And it's like, and then I had my flight back, and yeah, I think I arrived here in Zurich and picked up my guitar and sat on the floor, and it kind of just wrote itself from there. But it's kind of with that in mind of like, yeah, cherishing what you have, or for what it's been or what it's gonna be. And yeah, I think that's kind of it. And it just, I didn't put that much thought into it. It's just kind of what I was feeling of like leaving all my friends and that life behind, at least for a bit. Also all the beautiful memories that I made, and that kind of like, I didn't want to. It's like, for me, it's Ocean is an interesting song because I get a lot of people talk. talking to me about that song and what it means to them, and it's always something kind of different, you know,
Hmm.
and how they connect with it. But I think for me, it's kind of a song of just appreciate and see the beauty in what you have, even if it's only for a short time, instead of yeah, just dwell in the sadness or in the loss of it. Yeah,
That's super cool,
something
man.
like
I've already told you that for me it was like a very special song because I listened to it one afternoon, and then like this whole idea for the book came to be, and it was super crazy because nothing like that ever happened to me. But I'm just curious, does it bother you that like people come to talk to you about ocean, and I don't know how much other people talk to you about your newest songs or something like that, but is there like this feeling that ocean means so much to them, and then you want to that you want your new album and your other projects to have this impact too? Like how is it to you?
no, not at all. I'm just grateful. Like I've been writing and creating music all my life, and that's kind of what I know and what I do. And it's a special feeling when you know you create something that resonates with people on a deeper level, and it's not just like a good song or something, but an ocean really. I still get a lot of messages from people who tell me their stories with the songs, and it just seems there's something in that song that yeah, makes that song be part of, you know, a part of someone's life, and I'm just grateful for that, and it's always yeah, beautiful to hear.
Michael, it's crazy. And it's not only that song. I've been listening to your new album, which we will talk about in a minute, this last few weeks. And dude, it's like you reach the divine. I don't know if you believe in any of this, like if God or any sense of this of an energy and the force that it's behind everything, but man, you seem able to reach this divine thing, whichever we like to talk about. And I know it sounds a little crazy, but I really think it's true because when I hear to it, it's like this little thing clicks in me, and it's like I don't know, man. It's just really, really crazy. And I thought I was the only one, but I've been listening to your new album with my girlfriend, and she seems to feel the same thing. And she's not like a very spiritual person. So, man, it's really crazy. You have this access to something that I think a lot of musicians don't. And I don't know that this is not even a question, but just so you know that dude, what you've been writing is amazing. Is amazing.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thought because I do feel like music is something. I'm not a religious person, but I do feel like music is something or can be something bigger than what we know and what we experience or something. And even with writing songs, it's like a lot of like there's two kind of types of songs that I write. Sometimes I write songs and I know I wrote that song, but a lot of songs just kind of are there, and it feels like almost I'm just picking them and I'm just putting them out. But it's like yeah, there's something to music or in music that feels like it's a spiritual thing, and it's like
That's
something that yeah
exactly what I'm talking about. And it's crazy because I've started to play guitar a few months ago, which you know because I've sent you
yeah
messages talking about that and asking chords and
yeah
something about that. And it's kind of crazy because all my life I've been hearing to music and thinking, dude, this guy has a connection to God or this energy
yeah
or whatever it is. And now that I'm playing, I'm not very good at it. Actually, I'm pretty bad at it for now, but I do feel that. Like there's a connection. There is something much bigger going on when you get in this flow state where the song just flows, you know.
Yeah, I do feel the same thing. There's just something in making music that elevates to that level of, yeah, it's hard to say what it is. Like I don't know what exactly it is, but that's always what draws me to music. It's kind of maybe that's why it comes across in my music, because that's what I'm for myself looking for. Like these moments where I just get lost in it and feel like, oh, this is bigger than me. This is not like just trying to play as good as I can or sing in pitch, but it's just, yeah, something flowing through.
Man, this is amazing. Thank you very much for this because this was amazing. Um, okay, so let me focus here. I want to talk about the new album, but before that, I want to know about two things related to your name. First, you've been called native for a while, and I wanted to know where did that come from? And you've also made a big change recently to leave native behind and, you know, be Michael Benjamin. And I wanted to understand a little bit about that change and how Michael Benjamin is represented in this new phase of your career.
Yeah, I mean, I think to make a long story short, native kind of for me was like, yeah, I started putting out music or playing shows in LA, and I needed a name, and I didn't. It was a time for me where I was struggling with mental health, wasn't that well, and I wanted to hide. I didn't want to show, like, even in the beginning, I didn't even show my face a lot, like on Instagram or something. It was
Mhm.
just like, oh, it's just my music, and I don't want people to know who I am or what it is. So then I kind of chose a name for myself that you can't really find. That is kind of like, yeah, you don't know what it is, and that's kind of the main story behind it. It was just my way of trying to hide but still release music and make something with it. And then yeah, the last few, maybe 2 years, something changed for me, and where it was like, oh, this is me, and I want to be more open about myself. I want to let people see who I am and what I do, and I don't want to hide anymore. And then yeah, from there it kind of slowly started like feeling like it's good for me to change on the outside as well, to kind of manifest that change and be like, yeah, I don't want to hide anymore. I don't want to try to be that mysterious whatever
Mhm.
guy that no one knows, and like just yeah. And that's kind of where I changed, and then for me it was like, yeah, let's change it to my name. And um yeah, that's kind of how it
Yeah, yeah,
all
I
came
totally
to.
get it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, you've mentioned this idea that you are being more yourself, more Michael Benjamin now, even in your social media, and already talking about this new album, The World is Still Beautiful, which is amazing. I can't stop hearing it. And it's kind of crazy because yesterday I was in the gym and I was hearing your songs and like
Great
people
music for a
watch
good song.
yeah, man. People watch me and I'm like doing this face and trying to be, I don't know, male or something like that. And I'm like hearing these songs which are so profound and make me think about my life. And I don't know, it seems like a very personal project. And I wanted you to talk a little bit about that because this change really does seem like you are moving on to this phase where you can be even more true to yourself in your writing, and it really shows in this album. And I don't know, man, how do you deal with this vulnerability that these songs require? You know, does it get any easier knowing that you're like, I don't know, art for me is much about that, about we being able to connect with other people and being true to what we are feeling and going through. But sometimes it can be a little scary. So how is it for you?
Um, it's hard to say. I guess writing for me is my way of um, journaling in a way, and dealing and with all these things. And I usually don't think about that when I write songs, that people are going to hear that. It's like they usually only start after a release where I get feedbacks or something, and I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't think of that, or I didn't even look at it. But I think that's the beauty in music and writing. It's that honesty and like just being yourself with all your flaws and whatever. It's just, this is what I am, this is what I can do. And um yeah, I mean, some people get it, some people don't. And it's also just a part of my life. I also, have like different things that I do. I do go to the gym, I do some sports or whatever, and it's like just one kind of thing. And then um it's also a mix between my personal things and stuff that I see, and it kind of blends together. So it's like you can't just take every word that I write as like, oh, that happened exactly the way I
Hmm.
write it, or that's exactly how I feel. It's like it's a combination of things. And but I think in the bigger picture, you do get like, if even if I look back at my work, it's like you do see kind of where I was at what time and what happened in my life. And I think there's no hiding from me. I mean, it's just what it is, I guess.
Yeah. I kind of feel the same with writing books, but I
Yeah.
think every artist that creates something, there's always this very ambiguous feeling about being 100% true and also creating things like from zero. But I really want to know about the start of this project because I've been a fan for a long time, and I I've always wondered, man, why isn't there an album? Like, there's these EPs being released, and man, I want like 20 new songs from this guy. So, how did this project come to be, and how is the process of like cutting things, like cutting songs that don't really fit in the story that you're trying to tell? Like I actually joked with you about Ocean, like asking, man, why isn't Ocean in the album? But in a general context, I wanted to know how is the process of cutting songs and choosing what goes in and goes out.
Yeah, I mean, it usually is like that. I set some kind of limitations or have some kind of vision for what I want to do. And with the album, it was that I didn't want to spend too much time, and it was like, oh, okay, I want to write um, a lot of songs in like 2 3 months period. And then I wrote a lot of songs, but I was only in the studio for 3 days, and we recorded actually all the tracks live. So it's like
Wow,
we didn't.
really?
Yeah, I mean, it's just me with the guitar playing and singing, and then having some sounds. But we didn't have a lot of time. We recorded 20 tracks in these 3 days. So it was like one or two takes for each track. It was a pretty
Man,
fast thing, but
man,
that's
this
kind
is
of for me what it
crazy.
felt like. For me, it was like with that album, I was like, oh, I just want it to be kind of raw and just be um as if you're kind of almost in my living room listening to me singing these songs. And then it was just, yeah, it was actually pretty difficult to cut it down. Like we made 20 tracks and then released, I think, 12 on the album, or 10, I'm not sure. Something like that. But we cut quite a bit. And it's these, I mean, you probably have the same thing. Like if you write a book, it's like you have some ideas or some chapters or some um things you say and you write down that you like, and at one point it's like, yeah, does it really add something to the story? Does it really need to be there, or is it just, yeah, I guess you have the same thing, and then it's just
Yeah,
like sometimes you got to kill your darlings, or it was just like, yeah, find find for me, it was like, yeah, let's find the songs that kind of tell that journey of that year somewhat. Yeah.
that makes total sense, man. And I have this question, which is a little bit crazy, maybe, but there's this ambiguous feeling in the album where almost every song, especially tracks number 3 and 5, which is Tonight I Don't Want to Change a Thing. I love it. And The World is Still Beautiful. I love it too. it, they seem like a serenade for a lover. And I got the feeling that you were not only talking about a person, but you were also talking about your connection to music and songs. And the same thing can be seen in It's Okay. And it's crazy because I was listening to it with my girlfriend, and actually, she came up with this idea about being about your songs, about your art. And I was, man, this is crazy. But when I listened to it again, I told her, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. And I know that maybe the two things are completely wrong, but I just wanted you to tell me if I'm being completely crazy about that idea, or if it does make any sense to you as a writer.
That's it's a funny observation. I've never talked about this actually. Um, when I wrote the songs, I didn't have anything in mind, but like, because I'm not in a relationship or something,
Hmm.
and I wasn't in love at the time I wrote these songs, and then kind of I started reflecting on it, and for me, I think the lover kind of stands for life. I think for me, that album was like getting back to falling in love with living and the beauty of life. Like, um life is I dealt with some mental health issues and struggles, and I think that album for me was kind of my love letter at like, oh, I want to fall in love with living and being alive again. And I think that's even where the title for me was pretty clear from the beginning. The world is still beautiful. It's like that whole thing of like, oh, I'm not turning my back on this, or I'm not getting cynical or anything, but I want to. So I do think it's pretty close what you said, but I think it's bigger than just the music. I think it's just for me in general with living and life, and seeing the beauty in it. Like, and it is kind of for me, writing these songs, I realized it's kind of close to, or similar to a relationship. You know, you have your ups and downs, you have your fights, sometimes you struggle, like you, oh, is this going to work or not? And but in the end, it's just, yeah, there's the beauty in it, you know.
Man, I've got the same feeling about books. It's really really crazy because actually I've been in like a couple months where being a writer seems like the hardest thing on earth. And I remember that last year when I released the book, it seemed like the easiest thing. You know, it was like, man, I've been having so much connection to people. They are reading the book, much more people than I thought it would be possible, and they are resonating with the story and the characters and something like that. And these last few months, it's been like rejection behind rejection about new projects and publishers and
Yeah.
something like that. And it's crazy because this thing about there's this thing about art where it seems like there is this is the only thing that can sustain us, that can like keeps us alive and make us remember that the world is still beautiful.
Yeah.
We have artists who are trying to get to people, but man, it's so crazy. And I have this question, which is something related to that, but as an artist, struggle seems like part of the process, right? I think for everyone,
I
even
guess writing books is a next level of struggle. I think music is quite easy compared to writing books. I have the dream of writing a book one day. Maybe if
Really?
I would love that. Maybe if I ever come around, I'll hit you up and be like, hey, I need some tips and advice on how to do it. But it just seems like such a big task. Like music is still like, it's like that kind of 3 minute, few lines kind of thing, where a book is like, I don't know, how long do you usually work on a book?
I usually I usually write really fast, but I'm a slow reviewer. Like I I write books in about 3 or 4 months, but I usually take um at least 3 or 4 more to get everything, good for the book to actually be able to go and be published. But I've got this thing, man, which I really hate about me, that I'm very perfectionist, and I usually work and rework and we rework in the book and again and again and again. And I've been in the process of learning that the book is never ready, the story
Yeah.
is never finished. I only have to know when to leave it unfinished, when it's good enough to go to the world. And but man, I don't know. I think it would be awesome if you worked in a book. I I would
Maybe you want.
read anything you write. So I don't know, man. I'm really hoping that this come to be. Do you have any ideas? Do you like keep this notebook
Yeah,
where you
I do
really?
have like a few ideas.
Can you
And
talk to me a little bit about that, or it's
oh, I
it's
don't
very
want to.
much in?
I mean, I think it's just in my head so
No,
far,
okay,
and I
okay.
don't want to get ahead of myself. But I also don't know if I'm ever going to do it. It's just that one dream, you know. It's like I would love to write a book one day. It's just like that,
Man, it's gonna
and I do.
happen.
Yeah, I would love to. It be, but it just at the moment it wouldn't work because it's just so much work, and especially if you write your first book, like you have to learn like how to write a book, how to sit down, like yeah, there's a lot to it.
I I don't know. I've been talking to this friend of mine. She's a writer too, and she's been asking for tips and stuff like that. And it's always very crazy. And I think you've got the same feeling about music, which is something that I don't know. It feels very difficult in the beginning, but once you started it, it just flows. And for me, books are exactly like that. I have this process of sitting down and I actually vomit my ideas because I write like everything from start to finish without reviewing anything. But I don't know. It's a process, and I would love to hear about you soon about a project like that. But what I wanted to hear from you right now is that you've had a bunch of hits. I've been checking your Spotify. I'm pretty sure that I'm like your listener number one in Brazil because I'm very addicted to your songs, to the point where my girlfriend, like, she gets, oh, come on, not this again. And but I think I'm not out of the curve in calling you an independent artist. If I'm wrong, you can correct me. But
No,
how do you find the energy and strength? And I know this is like a cliche question, but I really am curious about that. How do you find the energy to keep going and writing and playing and singing? And I do imagine that you have a few bad days and you feel down about yourself and about your musics or anything, like,
of
I
course.
don't know, you want to have the access that Justin Bieber has, but at the same time you want to
Yeah, of course.
remain. So how is that for you, man?
I think it's two things. I think first of all, music is always kind of the thing I turn to when I don't feel that good. Like it's so if I have bad days, I usually sit down with the guitar and play, or just like not trying to write something or record something, but it's like it's one of my, it still is kind of the thing that I love most, you know, in these times. So I rarely have a time of a few days or so where I don't pick up the guitar or don't make any music. And the other thing is, like, I've been always more driven by creating than the idea of success or fame or any of that, where it's like, of course, some things are nice and make life easier or simpler or give you opportunities, but I just want to create what I do, and if I'm lucky, and I've been a few times, then there are people out there who kind of appreciate the work or like the work or it does something, or and I think that's what it is for me, you know. That's more valuable, and it's just, yeah, it's just what I do. I think even if I wouldn't release anything, I would still probably do the same thing, kind of.
That's that's super cool because I was talking to my girlfriend recently, and I've heard this like rejection recently about a book that I've been trying to get published, and she told me that, you know, like, man, you love this so much, you would still keep doing even if, you know, this wouldn't like give you any money or something like that. But I don't know. I just think
But
it's
these times
super.
are, yeah, these times can be hard. I mean, it
Yeah,
does affect you. Like, I do get, like, of course, like every artist gets rejected a lot. It's part of it. You know, you want to
yeah.
work with someone, they don't want to work with you, or they don't have. So yeah, these things, I guess it's just trying to learn to not take it personally or let it affect your work. It's, I mean, it's still a struggle sometimes, you know. I think that's, and I think that will always be like that. It's just part of, it's such a personal work, I guess, that when you get rejected,
Yes.
it's so close to you, you know.
Dude, that's you've reached the thing about it. It's so personal when someone tells you that you don't fit with them. It's like, so I don't know, my feelings don't fit, you know. It's something very strange, and it's something sometimes very lonely. Like, you can try to talk about it with your mom or your girlfriend. And my girlfriend, she's an actress, so she gets it very well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so we are lucky enough to be able to talk to each other and understand what we are feeling. But I don't know, for you, I think it is a little bit different because for me, the thing that helps is music. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I have a bad day, and then I go on Spotify, and then I put, you know, Michael Benjamin, and man, I feel better. And for
Yeah.
you, when you feel down, you also find comfort in music, in songs. And I don't know, man, it's there's something so beautiful about that. And again, very divine, you know, very out of earth.
Yeah, I think so too. There's something in it. I mean, I still like do the same thing, that I listen to a lot of music, especially in these times. Like, so yeah, there's something
Yeah.
to it.
So, man, before we continue with the questions, I you were talking to me about being a little bit more open about sharing your ideas and the person that you are. First of all, how old are you, Michael? If that's okay for me to ask.
I'm 34.
34. Wow, man, you
I'm not that young.
Switzerland. It's like really good for the skin, man.
I think it's music. I think music keeps you young.
Yeah, man, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Not a very stressful life. Music that keeps you young, probably,
Do
or
you
different.
find it stressful? Like, what's the most stressful part about working with music and, you know, I don't know, your day-to-day life?
I think the biggest challenge is usually just the mental thing, you know, like, yeah, you get some rejections and then be like, oh, not taking it personally, or like there are weeks when I try to write something and I write a lot of ideas, but nothing sticks. And it's just like, oh man, maybe I don't know how to write a song anymore. I think these are the challenges of, I'm sure you know that too, where it's like
Yeah.
some days you sit down and like 5 minutes later you have a song and it's like, oh, where did that come from? Like, and sometimes it takes days and hours and tons of ideas and nothing kind of sticks. And you're like, I don't even know what I'm doing, where it's like, yeah, but you have to go through that, I guess.
Yeah, totally. My girlfriend, she's been reading this book about Elizabeth Gilbert, which is the woman behind It, Pray, Love, something like that. I don't remember the name, but she talks about she has this new book about creativity, and she says something that I don't know if I totally believe, but I just want to bring it up to know what you think about it. She says that we don't create things, like we have this genie inside our minds or our spirits, and then some days we access it and some days we don't, and that just explains why the flow doesn't always work. I don't know, do you feel that this resonates with you somehow, or do you think that like always comes from you, or you are like um a channel to bring these things up? Because I don't know what I feel, because some days I do feel like it's me, but some
Yeah.
days, man, it just feels like there's this thing whispering in my ear and write that and that and that, and then the story becomes much larger than I thought it could be, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me it's both too. Like, I have songs like in my latest release, Therapist, is a song that
It's
I
amazing, man.
thanks. I kind of still remember all the places I was when I wrote these lines, like, and I see the scenery. So I feel like, yeah, I wrote that song. It's like years of working as a writer that kind of, you know, showed me how to write. And then um and this feels more like not work. It doesn't feel like work, but it's more like, oh, I did that. I wrote that. But then I have songs um yeah, they're just out of nowhere. They just appear, and sometimes I don't even know what they mean and where they come from. And so I do think, yeah, as you said, it's probably a thing of kind of both. And
Yeah,
I also don't judge like what's better or worse. It's just a different thing. There's something beautiful in capturing that genie or that thing where it's like you do something and it's like, oh, I don't know where that where it comes from, or how it came up with that. And or even like, yeah, I have songs that I wrote that I like. This one's for us, for example, is a song that like it doesn't feel like I wrote that song. It's
really.
like every time I play live, it feels like I'm covering someone else's song. Like I can't remember when I wrote that song, how I wrote that song. It feels like it's just been there. So there's like these different things, and it's interesting, and um, that's beautiful too. I like that.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you something about the album, but I just wanted to show you something. In my book, I have this chapter where I talk about this great whale as if it were God. And I know it sounds very crazy, but in the book it makes like a little bit more sense, because I don't know, it just does. It's kind of complex, but a lot of people come to me and talk about this chapter, and they like, man, this was so beautiful. It was a new way to see God, and my faith was kind of restored. And it's something very crazy, because I actually don't recall where did that come from, And my girlfriend, she gave this to me, it's a wooden whale,
Oh,
and it was crazy because yesterday I was preparing for this interview, and then I listened to Ocean. I listened to the whole album again, and then I listened to Ocean, and I thought, man, maybe I I kind of use this song as an inspiration, as like we have this ocean full of love and peace, and maybe heaven is this, and maybe God, he's not like humans at all, because humans can be, selfish, and I don't know. And whales, I don't know if you like whales, man, and I don't know
Yeah.
the where this interview is going, but I love whales. And during this time in my life, I got very obsessed about them, and I started researching and seeing documentaries. And it was crazy because whales, they are like super powerful beings, and they are super peaceful and good and kind and gentle. And I was like, man, maybe God is like this. Maybe this thing behind everything is like this. And I don't know, man. It's just so crazy. Like how some things they come for us, and we write, and then we try to, reach people with it. But the origins, like thinking about it now, maybe this makes sense. I listened to Ocean a bunch of times, and but man, I don't know. It just feels something like a channel, and I do get that feeling that you mentioned. Like, man, I don't know how I wrote that. I don't remember writing that, and I don't know, man. It's very, very crazy.
Interesting. I mean, I think one thing that I've learned throughout the years is that our subconscious picks up a lot of things if you're open to it, and I think that's um, the great challenge as a writer, and also the beautiful thing about it is like if you walk through your life and your path with open eyes, a lot of it will just reveal itself because you're open. Like I started doing that a few years ago. I wasn't always like that, but now it seems like I'm picking up things and stories and things just because I look for it. You know, you're somewhere and you're always like seeing these ideas and seeing these metaphors or whatever it is, and it's like and I think that's maybe where even the Chini thing that you talked about comes back to. It's like you learn to recognize there's something there. Like it's like I had that conversation a few weeks ago. I was in a local bar here, and I had a drink, and there was like a traveler from Australia or something,
Hmm.
and we talked, and he talked about his story and things. And I said to him, I was like, "Oh, there's a song. I just haven't found it yet, but there's a song." And it's like, and I do feel like that about creation a lot. It's like a lot of it is just there, and we just have to pick it. And to be able to pick it, we have to have open eyes, you know. And it's like, yeah, you see these things. You see a whale, and for someone, it's just a whale and a beautiful animal. But for you, it can be that, oh, there's so much to it. And I think that's what I love about creating. It's finding these pockets of, yeah, things.
And that that makes
I
a
don't know if
lot of
that.
sense. And it's
Okay.
like, I don't know. I think that when you talk to people that don't create, you may sound a little bit crazy. Not you specifically. I'm
Yeah,
talking very
thanks.
much about me.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's crazy because when I was talking about this whale thing, I already thought in my mind, man, he's gonna think I'm crazy. But there's like this thing about creators and artists that they can't understand that we are just channeling things, and you said something that resonates a lot with me, that when we are open, when we are just trying to pick the stories in the world, because the world is so big, man, and
Yeah.
we can pick so many things from it. Like my life, obviously, I have a bunch of stories, and I can try to translate them to the books and the songs that I will one day try to write and ask you for tips. But I don't know, the world is so big that, and it's so beautiful that we can, if we are open enough, we can just channel everything that we bump into in a daily basis. And I know it's crazy. It's fascinating to hear you talk about it for sure. I have one last question about the album, and then just two more about
Yeah.
you, Michael. but I loved the last song I am. Yesterday when I was listening to the album, I realized that I didn't pay much attention to the last song the first time that I heard it. And I don't know, it seemed like the most personal one.
Yeah,
I don't know if you agree with me, but I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that song, whatever you want to talk about it. For me, it was very, very beautiful. And when I ended up my listening, I just put I am again because I don't know, man, just something that really touched my heart yesterday, and I wanted to hear you talk a little bit about that.
yeah. I think it's for me, it's like if you make music, or I guess it's the same if you write books, like you get a lot of perception of people, the way they think you are, the way or even the way they want you to be, and all these things. And the same with people you've known for a long time, like even your family that you grew up in. And for me, life is change. And I think that song is a lot of, it's hard to say, but it's probably about embracing that change and being just like, yeah, it's a good thing that we move forward. It's a good thing, and we don't have to play the role that we played yesterday. We don't have to have that face anymore. We can I can be anyone I want to be today. It's like that thing of like, I think even the name change for me, is kind of part of that, where it's like, oh, people think I am like that, or I have to show them this side of me. I can't show the other side because they're either disappointed, or they won't understand, or anything like that. And yeah, for me, that song kind of made peace with the idea of like, yeah, I could just be whatever. Like I can be someone else tomorrow, and it's all good. I can just, there's no like, I think like in my early mid 20s, like most people probably, I've been trying to find myself. Like a lot of people talk about that. You try to find yourself, like trying to figure out what you like, what you don't like, who you want to be, and all these things. And I think that song is like, yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not trying to find myself anymore. Like I am. It's just that thing of like, I am. It's just, yeah, it's just existence. Like it doesn't have to have like always a story to it or a meaning. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's probably like
Dude, it 100% does. And I'm in my mid-20s. I know that the beard is kind of leading me in the wrong direction, but it's because I'm writing a new book and I have this superstition that I don't shave completely, at least until I finish the book.
oh, that's
Um,
cool. I can't
yeah,
grow up
man.
here, so I can do that. But
You you can't grow a beard.
not really. Like, I mean, I could a little bit, but not a
I don't know. It
strong.
just these kind of superstitions they just help me, through the process because I'm having a really tough time writing this book. It's a very personal book about my family and the origins of my family, and I don't know. The beard is kind of helping me because I can't give up because I look awful in a beard. I hate it, and it scratches all the time. But anyways, um,
Also be
dude,
like, I don't know if you'd agree with that, but I had that a long time with. I was always wearing hoodies and having like I was always wearing, like, even on my photos and stuff, and I felt like it's a lot about it trying to hide, because you show so much of yourself in your work. And it's like, yeah, you kind of, and the beard might be the same thing, you're somewhat trying to hide a little bit, because
dude, that
you
makes a
give so
lot of
much from the
sense.
inside. I don't know, but it's just,
That makes a lot of sense because, when I think about myself, I don't think about me with a beard, if
yeah,
that makes sense. And I don't know, maybe it's that because it's really a personal book and not very much about me, but about my father and my mother and the troubled stories about how my family came to be. And I don't know, it makes a lot of sense. And I do remember that phase of your career. I've been a fan for a long, long time. I don't know if it's I think there's even an EP with you on the cover with the hood or something
Yeah,
like that. And
I
I
didn't
don't
do it
know.
on purpose. It's just looking
Really?
back. I think it was more like
Oh
I
yeah.
kind of tried to be invisible. I didn't want to like. I like to be on stage. I like to make music and show my work. But me as a person, I was trying to, you know, hide
Do
a
that.
little bit.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't know, man. Like you're being my therapist right now because I do feel that a lot. I have a really tough time talking um about my book with people. They when they come up to me on Instagram and they like, hey man, I love your book. I do get super excited, but I also have this experience like, man, this was very personal for me, and I don't know if I wanted you to read that, even though I published the book.
Yeah,
It's like very dubious in my mind, and I don't know. It's a little bit crazy, but I don't know. Art maybe art is like that. Maybe art is about we just being true, man, and that can be hard sometimes because I think that most people are trying to hide what they are and what they are feeling, and our job and our process is doing the exact opposite, you know. It's like showing everything and just, man, being true to what we're going through at the moment. I don't know if that makes any sense. I just talked
yeah.
a lot. uh but man, I don't even know where I was going with this. I did have a question, but I'm just gonna jump right through to the other one that I do have it, which is, man, what do Brazilian fans have to do to get you to come here? Like, it's way past the time, okay? You have to come here. So what do we have to do to make this happen? So if you can please give a tip for everyone who's gonna watch this, it will be amazing.
I would love to come. I think it's just trying to find a way to organize something somewhat. I've never been in Brazil. I don't have any connections there or anything. I think it's more to do with that. But I would love to come. I
I
have to.
will I will do this bridge. Okay, I'm gonna commit to trying to get you here. And I do know for a fact that a lot of people, especially I don't want to say that the book made you famous in Brazil or anything like that because the book is not famous, but I do hear from a lot of people. Actually, last week, there was this girl who, I don't know, shared something on Instagram, and I can't, and she tagged me, but I lost. I didn't see in time, and then I was like, oh, so hey, I'm sorry, I didn't see in time, and what was it about? And she was like, it was about Ocean, that song from your book, and it became my favorite song, and I was like, oh, come on, man, that's my favorite song. You can't do that. But at the same time, it was super cool because there are a lot of people here um that actually fell in love with your songs, with your music. And I know for a fact that if you come here, people will show up. And I know, man, this has to happen.
Yeah, that'd be incredible.
Yeah. Um, Dude, I want to know what the future holds for you, music wise. If you're thinking, obviously you have this new release, Therapist. Is it Therapist the name or Therapy?
Therapist.
Therapist, yeah. The video is super cool too.
Thanks.
And I don't know if you have any plans to, if you're working in a new album or something like that. But I would love to hear what are your plans for, we have only 3 months for 2023 to end, which is kind of
Yeah,
crazy because this year just
it's
rolled
fast.
by. But anyways, man, talk a little bit.
Yeah, I've got a tour in Europe, like coming up at the end of November. Will
Wow.
be announced soon. and I made an EP, 4 songs. Therapist is one of the 4 songs that I'm gonna release before, or like there will be another single October 15th or something, and then 2 more songs in November. That's kind of the plan for this year. And yeah, for next year, I don't really know. I'm writing a lot, I'm recording a lot. There will be probably a lot of songs coming out next year. I don't know if I'm doing another album. The thing with album is probably closer to a book, where
Mm-hmm.
if you just do songs, it's more like a story or a column somewhere in a newspaper. It's just the amount of work that goes into an album is just way more than if you make 10 songs over a period of a few months. So at the moment, I'm working on songs more so than on a bigger
Then a bigger
project.
storyline.
Yeah, where I'm like, oh, okay, like the world is still beautiful. It was like I made that in one thing. It's like meant to be one project, and now I'm more so working on songs, and maybe do another album or something next year. I don't know. And then hope to play a lot next year. That'd be great to be on stage a lot.
Nice, man. It's super curious because I didn't know that an album would be like such a hard work.
I
Especially
mean, it's
when
for
you've
me.
real. No, but
Yeah,
I do have this friend here in Brazil, and he's a musician. He's very good, and he released an album like 2 or 3 years ago, and he also said the same thing, that an album is just a lot of work, and an EP or a single is just, you don't have to maintain the whole storyline, and
yeah.
it's just more free flow, you know?
It is. It's a different thing, and I mean, I like both, and I want to make another album, of course, but at the moment, it's I also write a lot of just songs that it's not like, oh, this has to be they belong together or something, and then
Hmm.
they don't have to be, you know.
Man, I have one last question before I let you go, and this wasn't even my script here. I do have a script. It's
Yeah,
very well hidden,
you're
but
writers. Makes sense.
yeah. Actually, I did work as I don't know, a host in a program, in a radio thing here in Brazil, and I had this thing where I didn't, you know, write questions beforehand. I always just try to let the interview flow, because I do feel like an interview has its own life, you know? Like I
Yeah,
did not plan to talk to you about spirituality or whales or anything like that, and
yeah,
just
yeah.
comes up. But anyways, man, I'm having like a tough time. I'm 23 years old. I'm about to be 24 very soon. And I do have this feeling that I'm running out of time. Like I write a lot, and I have this, man, I need to be published from in the next year or so, for some reason. And I do have this hurry in my creative process. Like, do things need to happen? I don't know why, but they need to happen right now, or I'm gonna go crazy. And you're 34, and I I I feel like you've walked past this, or at least experienced somehow, and I don't know, beat it somehow. And I don't know, I just wanted your perspective on that. Like, this feeling of of rush, and man,
Yeah.
I do need to get there as a writer. And I don't know, that's very personal. I don't know if people will want to, I don't know what's gonna happen with this part of the interview, but I don't
Yeah.
know, I feel like it will really help me.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you have that as a writer, because with writers, it doesn't seem to be that much of an age
Hmm.
thing. Like I had that like in my, yeah, probably the same age, because I felt like, you know, like when I was like 19, 20, I wanted to be a rock star. Like I made heavier music in bands, and I wanted to be, you know, living the dream of that. And then, yeah, you turn 22, 23, and it's like, oh, yeah, exactly what you say. Um, I mean, I think the beautiful thing is I truly believe, even more so now than ever, that people don't care. Like they care about your work. Like if you read a good book, it doesn't matter if it's a woman, if it's a man, if she's 20, if he's 65. Like if he connects um, with what you do, it doesn't matter. And I think the same about music. And I think um, a lot of these things come from that a lot of people who have success are kind of young because most people give up. So like you always have young people coming up, but a lot of like, and I've seen that with music a lot, like especially the last 4 or 5 years. When people turn 30, like a lot of people give up, like, and not in a bad way. It doesn't have to be bad, but I have a lot of musician friends who would do music like I did music. And then you turn 30 and I'm like, I don't know if I want this life anymore. And then they, you know, do something else. And I guess that's why a lot of, you don't have that many 35 or 37-year-old people trying to be successful at writing or making music as you have 20-year-olds, because most of them, they have their house, they have a job, they don't have that dream. And I think it has more to do with that now, but
Mhm.
I don't know. But I don't think it matters. Like I really don't. Like it's but I get where you come from. Like I do, like I had that for a long time, like, getting older and with music even more so, I guess, because you're kind of also a face and like
Mm.
a brand and you want to be um but I don't, I mean, it might matter in a few things, if you want to be big in pop culture, it might, even there it doesn't really matter. I
Yeah,
mean,
no, it totally makes sense, man. And I think I'm during that phase, which which has to do with transformation. I think I was that kid who wanted to be like, I don't know, Stephen King. I don't know, I don't write horror books or anything like that, but I wanted to be big like Stephen King. And I'm starting to let that go and just really connect to people, with people. And I think that the transformation is the worst part, is like the part that hurts, because it's like this idea that that kid who thought he was going to be Stephen King is kind of leaving the scene. And at the same time, I'm becoming a writer with more passion, and like, man, I want to do this for my entire life. I want to die
yeah,
writing my last book, and I want to
that's,
press enter, and I can
yeah,
have my last breath.
yeah, I think I mean, I think it can help to focus on like your, like finding the joy in creating more so than in finding success. At least that's what it is for me, because then you might be the new Stephen King, whatever, it can
Yeah.
happen. Like life is unpredictable. Like I don't know too much about him, but a lot of writers, like the author who wrote what was it, Games of Thrones, wasn't he in his like
Oh,
60s
George and
already?
Martin. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
When it's like, it's like, yeah, I mean, these things can happen, but if you focus too much on like trying to be that, it can lead to a lot of disappointment and stress on your mental health, because you're going to get rejected a lot. Everyone does. Like even these guys got rejected a lot. And I think, yeah, finding the joy in doing the work, and then you slowly trying to be better at it and create something more. And, I think I mean, for me, that's at least how I do it. And that really helped me to be, yeah, really calm and relaxed, and I don't care about it anymore because I don't think it matters.
Was there a turning
Like,
point? Like one moment that you were like, man, this is so tough, and I don't know if I can keep doing this anymore. But then you just revamped things, and you were like, man, I love this. I love being here in the studio and with the smoke of the studio, as you say in one of your songs. I miss
Yeah.
the smoke of the studio.
Yeah, I mean, I had time, period of maybe 6, 7 months where I really thought about quitting the pursuit of music, like not music per se, but like
Yeah, yeah.
pursuing it as a career. That was maybe 5 years ago or something, where I was like, oh, this is making me miserable. Like all the rejection, all the dreams that sometimes aren't fulfilled and all these things. And I was like, oh, maybe I should just do something else and take music for myself and enjoy it. And then I really thought about it. I thought about what else could I do in my life and all these things. And I realized how much I turned to music in that time. I was writing more than ever. Because that's where found comfort. And that's for me the turning point where I realized, like, oh no, I want to do this, but I have to change my approach. Like I can't let it destroy me. And for me, and that doesn't have to be for everyone, like everyone's different, but for me, it was really like, I just want to get better at what I do, more honest, more, to myself, create, focus on that. And I truly believe that. And this is not just a shtick that I say, but it's like, um, I just want to create something that I like. And I feel if I'm lucky, I'll have an audience, but they don't owe me anything. And it doesn't mean that I'm granted one. And if I have an audience, that's beautiful. It makes, but this is not why I'm in it. You know what I mean? Somewhat.
Dude, I totally do. I don't know. This was very, very precious, man. Like for real, it was really, really cool hearing you say that, because it does make a lot of sense. And I think that's it. We can wrap it up here because that was so beautiful. And I don't know, that just gave me 10 plus years for me to write at least. And then 10 years from now we can do another one of this, and then you will be in
Yeah.
with 40 44, right?
Yeah.
And we can do like uh
Another one.
yeah, a review about how the last 10 years
Yeah. How it
went by.
changes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. So people can find you everywhere. You wanna, leave your Instagram or any
Yeah. It's
recommendations?
just Michael Benjamin Music. I think it's on Instagram. And yeah, follow me.
Yeah.
Also say, yeah, you can also always write me. I'm pretty easy with these things. If I don't respond immediately, it's just because I'm not like on it too much. So
Yeah,
nothing
and
personal.
he does respond. It's
I do.
it's
It
very
just takes a
impressive.
while sometimes.
Yeah, the first time you
You
actually
know that.
answered me, it was really, really cool. I was like, Mom, you were
Yeah.
native back then. Like native answered me, and she was like, "Who's that, baby?" And I was so anyways, it was a crazy story, but um, I don't know. It was super cool. I'm gonna end the recording, guys. This was Michael Benjamin. He's amazing. Please check it out. The World is Still Beautiful. It's an amazing, amazing album, and I can't wait to hear what he comes up with next. That's it.